So I myself is teaching at a university in neighboring prefecture. So my perspective may be a bit different from other curators. In a sense, in the entire context, my perspective may be a bit different, or my view may be a bit different. So I was allowed to take a very free or carefree approach. My expertise or my interest lies in this. Let me talk about my personal history. The question of what is journey? In order to answer this question, I visited Trieste. This is a town in Italy. As you know, Trieste is located at eastern end of Italy. This is located on the border between the east and the west. It was where the Iron Curtain was located, and it was once under the control of the United Nations. By the end of the First World War, this was the only harbor owned by Habsburg. So it was a very commercial town. And Venezia Biennale was created to fight against this area. So in 19th century, this was a very powerful and commercial town, but the situation is very different now. So, very attractive town. I visited this town for two reasons. The first reason, this is an old story, but it's a very important story. This is about an art historian, Winkelmann. He is a pioneer of art history. And his grave is located in this town because he was killed there. My point here is writing about art history was done by him, Winkelmann, and the culture of Italy and culture of Habsburg. He died. He was actually killed in this town, which is located between the west and the east. So I was interested in him. And the second reason I visited this town was this is artwork by an artist, Vito Temple. This is like a surrealism, very interesting and strange picture. It is painted in 1931. So this is painted way before the real surrealism. Talking about him, he started painting about very strange, surreal paintings since 1910. It's like he is seeing through the minds of the people, the psychology and also deep mind. Those are the things which are the interests of the people. So I was talking about the mind, psychology, and the border. And it just so happened that Freud, when he started doing psychoanalysis, he once stayed in this town. He used to be a doctor, and after visiting this town, he became interested in psychoanalysis. So his life changed in this town, and his subordinate, Eduardo Weiss, was also active in this town. I may be deviating a lot, but I think this is also related to community. I want to talk about Basalian law. This law was introduced in 1978 in Italy. This is about the abolishment of mental hospital. After this law, it became illegal to construct a mental hospital. And this law was introduced based on the incident in this town. And your artwork that you are looking at now this artist was once hospitalized in a mental hospital for a very long time. In many parts of the art, like in the art and also in novels, this town is sometimes mentioned as a place where people have a lot of interest in psychology, and also this is a border between East and the West. And then coming back from this town, I went to see Triennale in Aichi in 2013. A lot of questions arose in myself in this small town, and those questions were also, I thought, took up in this Aichi Triennale in 2013, so I was really impressed. And then let's talk about 2016. In myself, my own unique experience in the small town of Italy, those feelings about the borders and journeys and the people's feelings, I've always been thinking about all those keywords. So I wanted to use those keywords in my curation for this exhibition. And here I want to talk about the relationship between the life, art, and journey. I focused on those three themes. And also I was very interested in a very famous psychoanalyst, Hisao Nakai. He used words symptom and index. Those two words or perspectives, symptoms and index, are very important in my curation in this exhibition. If you hear the word symptom or index, it may be too formal, but this is like signs of something. And also the feeling that you have after seeing the artwork, that can be referred to as index. Symptom is about looking at the things very closely and to face the future. On the other hand, index is about collecting so many things to think about the past. So symptom and index, those are two keywords. Those are two signs, rather, I wanted to use in my curation. And those two things, I think, supporting our lives. And now, why is it that we are attracted having journeys? Because by having journey, we can have both symptom or index. It's like we can have a microcosm of life in our journeys. When we go to travel, we can have a lot of feelings, and then we can collect all those feelings. And so those are the mixture of symptom and index, and that can be the reflection of our lives. If that is so, what we expect from the artwork, what we expect from art activities, I think symptoms and index are very important, meaning that one artwork is created in the context of history, so it's like an index. But at the same time, for the audience, beyond the artwork, we see the symptoms, we see something new, or we try to explore something new by looking at those artworks. So this is just like taking journey. Appreciating artwork is just like taking journey, because in both activities we see microcosms of our lives. So the issue of mindset or issue of psychology that I felt in the small town in Italy came up again to me in my curation. So now, what sort of artworks can we see symptoms and index? When we talk about symptom or index, I think those two keywords reflect or sympathize very well with the theme of Homo Favor, a rainbow of caravan. And the first artist that I came to my mind is an Italian artist, Giovanni Anselmo. I climbed a mountain with him, and he said, so he felt something in that mountain. So the symptoms and index that he had reflected in his artwork. This is exhibited on the first floor in Nagoya City Museum. I don't have time to explain this artwork. Through this artwork, this is to get one step closer to the space. Please do feel the symptoms through this work. Now let me talk about the index. Talking about index, the artist who came up with my mind was Oscar Murillo. In 28 different countries around the world, he did projects in 80 schools. He put a canvas on desks of schools and he just left them for 6 months. And then children or students write something on those canvas, or they may sometimes spill something on it. So the index of all those students for the past 6 months are all marked on those canvases. 1,000 canvases are all collected in this museum now. So symptoms and index. And in between symptom and index, revisited all those artworks. Let me introduce 3 more. This is by Kohei Kobayashi. This is being exhibited in Toyohashi. This is depicting a story of a Japanese very famous historical story. Every Japanese knows this story, but he breaks these very famous stories into pieces so that people can feel symptoms out of it. And again in Toyohashi, this is an artwork by Ai Sasaki. This is an artwork created all by sugar. The theme of this mural is a journey to go from Ise to Aichi to northern part of Japan. Ms. Sasaki herself made a research on this road where people used to bring salt. And based on her research, she found out that there is no specific road where people transported salt. So there are fragments of spaces or roads that people use to transfer or transport salts. Those fragments of information, or fragments of things, are put into one artwork. This is a big mural depicting the road of salt. So she put all of those fragments into one thing. This is also an encyclopedia of plants. Many plants described in this mural, so this is some symptoms that she felt through her research. And this is an artwork by Shirakawa, who is going to go up to the podium later for a panel discussion. And his artwork is again full of symptoms and index. And one last thing I want to show you. What I have been talking about is something happening on this planet with gravity or the time scale of the planet. But if we think about the space, what's going to happen? This is an artwork by Aurora Caldalisa. The message itself is something different. But from the context of the symptom and index, what I want to say here is there is a project to look for a sound of the living creatures in the space. We are sure or we believe that there are somebody out there in the space and try to talk to us. So this project is about trying to bring our mind to the space, out in the space, and try to get the signs or the sound from the space, from somebody out there. And we haven't been able to find something from the space. But if we do find something from the space, that is an index, because that sound must have been created in the long past. So even if we find something, we will not be able to see that person out there who created that noise because that noise came from the long past. So in the space, we have a lot of things like the present time and the past time. So what we can learn from journey, symptoms, and index. I emphasized on symptom and index in talking about journey. And when we think about community, I think this is a very important element to think about. Thank you very much.